All right. Hey, everybody, and welcome to today's SecurityInfoWatch.com's exclusive web event. Uh, Today, we're going to be highlighting security partners and integrators unleashed, how tech-savvy partners are enhancing solutions and driving more recurring revenue, and also solutions that are making folks better business people across the board. We want to thank our sponsors today, Deep Sentinel, Digital Watchdog, and NCS Systems for bringing this event to you. We all know that the security industry is shifting fast, and partners, integrators who evolve beyond traditional installation models are pulling ahead. Today, we're going to talk about how leading solution providers are embracing new technologies, smarter services, and new recurring revenue streams to stay competitive and deliver more value to the client. We are going to have a dynamic discussion, we hope, on how forward-thinking integrators and partners are leveraging technologies, including AI, to help provide smarter security ecosystems and build stronger, repeatable revenue streams. We're going to feature insights from SecurityInfoWatch, which would be me, our Digital Watchdog folks, NCS, and Deep Sentinel. So this panel is going to explore real world strategies and tactics for delivering next-gen security solutions to clients, streamlining operations, and driving reoccurring revenue models. So without further ado, let me introduce myself so you know who the moderator is. I am the editorial director of the Endeavor Business Media Group security sector, which includes Security InfoWatch, our Security DNA podcast series, our publication magazines, Security Business, Security Technology Executive, and Locksmith Ledger. This presentation is live and interactive, allowing you to ask questions at any time via the Ask a Question box in the presentation window. We will answer as many of these questions as possible during the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar, which means we want you to be interactive and ask questions throughout the event. We'll tell you how to do that right now. If you encounter technical difficulties during the webinar, please type in what your issue is into the Ask a Question box on the left, and a member of our tech team will assist you. If you're running pop-up blocking software, you need to disable it to view the webinar. In addition, it is recommended that you close all other applications for better performance. For your convenience, this presentation will be available on demand within 24 hours of this live event. All registrants will receive a reminder email containing a link to the presentation, which will also be accessible from the SIW homepage. And again, we encourage everyone to ask questions at any time during the event using the Q&A tool on the left side of your screen. If we can't answer all your questions during this live event, we will do our best to contact you afterwards. And as a reminder, you may also qualify for CEU credits following this event. If you would like to receive a certificate of attendance for today's webinar, please remain logged on for the entire event. You will automatically receive your certificate via email within 24 hours. Following the webinar, you will be responsible for checking with your association or organization to verify that this event met its criteria for those credits. Finally, today's webinar, today's webinar will be archived on our site for 6 months, and that includes the audio and any slides that will be on it. So, while our housekeeping issues are completed, we want to go ahead and push a slide out to you right now that has a poll, and we would appreciate your cooperation. So we want to know, what is your top priority for your business moving forward? And that'll just kind of give all of us a kind of a snapshot of who's with us and who the audience is and what your interests are. So go ahead and take the poll now. And we'll watch it in real time, and almost like watching a horse race. All right. See if we can get some more participants in here. I don't think any of us are surprised to see the who's ahead in this right now. All right. So we're gonna cut it off right here. We got 46 participants, and of course, 40, almost 47%, 46% are looking at reoccurring revenue. Second is exploring new tech. And then we drop down to expansion into new verticals, and stronger alignment, supporting your vendor partners. So again, I think those are pretty much par for the course, so I appreciate that. All right, so let us introduce our panel here. We're going to start with Jason Toohey. He's the Managing Director of NC Systems. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Sure. Thanks for the invite, Steve. I'm excited to be here. So yeah, I'm Jason Toohey. I have a company here based out of Loveland, Colorado. Been in business since 2008. Seen a lot of changes in the security industry. We were the first state to legalize marijuana, so jumped onto that market pretty early on. But it was only, I'd say, in the last 3 years or so that we used to do all type of installations, restaurants, dispensaries, car dealerships. In the last 3 years, we've really focused our attention on one specific vertical market, and that is the property management and the REIT industry, the real estate investment trust. We found that, with Colorado being the third worst state for property crime and the seventh worst state for violent crime, there's no shortage of challenges that our clients face in this type of market. So mostly we do installations at large retail, commercial properties, and also multi-tenant, large apartment complexes. And we found that, with having a remote guard solution and being able to now stop crime and not just record it, that's where we have been able to provide the most value for our clients, and in turn build some good recurring revenue streams. So
great. Well, we're looking forward to see how you partnered with our two solution providers today to get that done. So speaking of solution providers, the man with the DW behind him is Patrick Kelly. He's the Senior Director of Strategy at Digital Watchdog. Patrick, tell us a little bit about you and what DW is all about.
Thanks, Steve. Good afternoon. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Yeah, I'm Patrick Kelly. I'm the Senior Director of Strategy for Digital Watchdog. I've been fortunate to be with Digital Watchdog for a little over 12 years now, a little over 25 years in the industry, all in video, from beginning to end with video. So we're very excited about this particular topic, and it just lines up with some of the technology and the advances that we're making in our product lineup to really answer in this space, from the active deterrent cameras that we're bringing to market, to the cloud solutions, the SaaS solution, the health monitoring solutions, the VSaaS with the for the VMS portion of it as well. So couldn't be happier to be here with this topic, and look forward to this discussion.
As do we. Appreciate that. And last but certainly not least is Garrett Stone. He's the Director of Channel Partnerships for Deep Sentinel. Garrett, tell us a little bit about you and also what Deep Sentinel brings to the table.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I lead the team that manages our channel partner program. So we are entirely dedicated to working with our channel partners to make sure everyone is successful and everyone's got what they need to basically support what you saw in the poll, which is adding new technology to your stack to support recurring revenue and give your customers something that's, Jason touched on it, that's going to be proactive and preventative versus just, recording crime. So our entire business is dedicated to having guards watch in real time to stop these things from happening on properties that previously you would just have footage that really doesn't help. So my background is in channel partner programs. I have been in partner reseller programs since 2010, going all the way back to the telecom days. I was brought onto Deep Sentinel in 2020 to build and launch our dealer channel program, which has since grown into a completely partner-driven, partner-led, partner-exclusive product line where we work very, very closely with our partners and build a pretty fruitful two-way street.
Excellent. Well, that kind of leads us into our first question, and it's we're talking about the evolution of security integrators in this program, and the growth of the channel, the diversity of the channel, the challenges that the channel faces, and what security integrators are facing is definitely could take more than an hour. But over the past few years, we've seen a lot of changes. But I want to ask, and I'm going to start with Patrick first. Over the past few years, what changes have you seen on how integrators are approaching their business models, especially as it relates to you being a solution provider? Because it sounds like you really get in the weeds with them.
Yeah, we try to, and again, it's all about partnerships for us. In talking with Jason and Garrett, and we really Garrett's job is to help his customers scale. Our job is to help. Jason's customers scale. Garrett and I are supposed to, and so going back to your question, yeah, we've seen integrators moving more from a value-added reseller into a managed service provider, and so that means it's more about a predictable pricing, a proactive approach to it, and really being partners. Jason being partners with his end users, Digital Watchdog being partners with Jason and with other technology partners like Garrett. As the slide advances there, you can see what I was talking about with our Megapix AI and our active deterrent series cameras with integrated speakers with integrated LEDs, so that when Garrett's team engages remotely, they can talk down to the site, they can fire off pre-recorded messages. You can have different tiers with the AI on board that camera. You can have different tiers as a subject were to move more and more towards the property from a perimeter protection. You'll see Cloud Cam there is that we can put all of that on the camera itself with the recording technology, and all in one type of solution built into the camera with that active deterrent. So not a whole lot in terms of in what's deployed out there. From a recurring subscription service or recurring subscription revenue for the integrator channel, things like our DW Spectrum Enterprise, which is our VSaaS solution, where there are subscription services and integrators such as Jason have the control over that to provide subscription services to their customers. And then when we talk in the scale, we're talking about MyDW with our health monitoring and the ability to do things like camera view verification. So AI in the cloud, where we're verifying the images and notifying if it's out of specification. And of course, everybody's favorite is the Cumulus, the cloud storage solution. So
Right.
Those are some of the solutions that we provide. But Jason, maybe you want to talk about what you implement out there.
Yeah, well, I think traditionally the industry as a whole, it's a lot of times people in my position get a bad name because they're installing solutions and there's very little follow-up. They're cameras, so they pretty much run themselves. And I've seen a shift for us specifically, that when you start with the client and you kind of look at some of the pain points that they're having, and we've asked ourselves not so much what is the product we're selling, but how does this product help them do their jobs better? So in places like Denver, where we have very high rates of homelessness and very high rates of crime, it's just prevalent everywhere. There's a lot of strain on our clients as far as the costs that come associated with, just administratively, security costs and maintenance costs. So trying to be more proactive for our clients means that we start with them and ask, kind of one deeper question. So what happens when something bad happens on your property, and, whether it's homelessness or break-ins, there's a larger effect that affects the client. And then we've just kind of asked ourselves, how do we provide solutions around their pain points? And then that has allowed us to form more of a partnership with them. And then when you work to solve their problems, then there's ways to work in recurring revenue streams. And, that's what we're trying to do. So it's moving less from a install and go into more of a partnership, first with the client. And then when I have partnerships with people like Deep Sentinel, it's a two-way street.
Garrett, when we talk about Jason's take on this, what I find interesting is, we have sort of moved on from, guys rolling out trucks and installing widgets to being more of a consultative industry, which I think has been end user driven, because they really weren't satisfied with how systems integrators were doing their job. As far as, love them and leave them, and then they were on their own. But I kind of want you to kind of take up on this question too, is how your relationship with your integrator partners like Jason has changed, especially because of their business models, and maybe you could spend a little more time on that recurring revenue angle.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's been interesting, even just in the past 6 years or so. There's been some pretty major shifts in the security channel, where you're starting to see, a lot of those lines blur, right? You used to have, okay, you're a managed service provider, you're an AV dealer, and people would just get put into these buckets where they only solve one problem. And I think you're starting to see, at least in our channel, a lot of folks are getting really savvy, and they're looking at it from a technology standpoint, and from, like Jason said, from a standpoint of what problems can I help you solve versus what, small stack of products can I just sell, right? You're actually becoming a trusted advisor. They're starting to really think about, different verticals even, right? What, for different customers, what do I have in my, toolbox to help them solve these problems? And, a lot of that has led to a growth in more of a managed service approach, right? Whether it be security or AV or, what have you, you're starting to see folks adopt more of a full suite of services and problems they can solve. And it inevitably leads to, more recurring revenue, because a lot of folks want, it's cliche, but they want that single throat to choke. So you guys kind of become those trusted advisors that they can go and come to you and say, I have this problem, versus, hey, I want to buy this license. And then they trust you guys to kind of guide them down the right street. And it's funny, because when we started this channel, I mean, a lot of you guys will probably be nodding your heads, where we would have some initial, go-to-market strategy conversations with our partners. And I'd hear a lot of, we'd ask them, how are you getting new business? And it would a lot of times be word of mouth, right? And then we would say, okay, well, how do you go after, new lead gen? Like, how are you generating leads? And they would just say, what do you mean, right? I don't need it, right? So, and it was always kind of interesting. And now you're starting to see a lot of folks like get a little bit more savvy in terms of, expanding their proactive go-to-market strategy. They're looking at, what verticals, do I specialize in? What sort of sectors do I have a unique positioning in? And really figuring out how to go and approach those verticals to make a difference and be differentiated. And I think that's just the maturation of the go-to-market strategy from the security channel has been pretty impressive in the last 6 years. And I've seen a major shift there.
Yeah, it's definitely changed. Yeah, I want to throw out a question too, because I think this whole question about competitive advantage is really key. And Jason, I want to throw it at you first, and then Patrick, I want you to jump on this, and then let's go around the table. You've got IT providers, you got DIY systems, you got cloud-first startups, all competing for market share. And it kind of intrigues me on what advantages do security integrators still hold as their trump card? What is their unique advantage in the marketplace? Jason, what do you think now with, this competitive pressure that you guys are seeing in the market?
Well, it's, again, starting with the customer and the client. I have to I try to sell benefits, not features, right? So what benefits my client, specifically with the vertical that we're now pursuing, property managers, their goal is pretty simple. They don't care about what the camera looks like. They don't care about storage. They don't care about a lot of things. What they care about is keeping tenant retention. They care about having clients not being afraid to come into retail stores. They care about increasing their property value. So when you start with that question and you say, well, how as a security provider can I help them increase their tenant retention? How can I help their people feel safe so that when they're walking into a store, they're not hassled or having copper ripped off of their roof? So again, my belief that if you start with the client and you figure out what their pain points and needs are, and we're seeing it all over the place here. I mean, it's amazing. We worked on a project last year where there was, multiple homicides, there was arsons, and it's really taking the time to spend time with the client to figure out, okay, so this is what they want. They want to stop these things from happening. And I think as being a security integrator, especially, for us, things changed when, to Garrett's point, for years I was recording crime. I've seen some horrendous things, pulling video off for people after the fact and then sending it off to the police. But things really changed when we could start stopping crime and intervening on them. That, for us, kind of flipped the whole angle and said, okay, now that we have this tool and a live person at the other end of the camera, how can we help our clients achieve their business goals? And for us, that changed the whole game. And now we're pursuing markets, we're pretty specific about our vertical, using a specific product for a specific vertical that helps our clients meet their business goals.
Customization and situational awareness and being a proactive partner definitely have changed the paradigm. Patrick, when we're based on the same question here, again, in a competitive marketplace, I mean, it affects you guys, it affects you, it affects Garrett as a solutions provider. So how do you battle, some of these new outside forces that are coming in the market?
Yeah, no doubt. It's the going back to what Jason just said. It's about partnerships, right? And strategic partnerships across the channel, from the integrators to the other technology providers. Providing, for us, it's an open platform that we bring in lots of different technology into our Spectrum platform, and can interface with it. I think it's an interesting time. I mean, Garrett was talking about 6 years and that the technology has really advanced, but we're really at the early stages of this. When you look at it, I was at a conference last week, and one of your contributors was there speaking and was talking about that in terms of adoption to cloud, we're really 2030 is the actual adoption when the bell curve should be at its highest point.
Right.
And if you think about it like that, we're really in the early adopter stage, because this technology is it's not new to us. It's been around for a while, but it's evolving and it's improving. It's getting less expensive. It's getting easier to deploy. The technology is getting easier to deploy. So when you combine the advances in AI at the edge with the cloud capability and the remote connectivity, and you put it all together, you can really start to take advantage of both of those in an efficient manner, so that you're not burying Deep Sentinel with a bunch of false alarms, right? So the edge-based AI, or the server-based AI, the cloud-based AI, that can really filter for Deep Sentinels and their live operators, so that it can be an efficient solution. Has those advances, while we live with them every day, we're still in the early adopter stage of this, and it's really changing the business. When I read SecurityInfoWatch, and I was just reading last week where they're talking about the strategic inflection points, right? And that's kind of where the business is at today. it's we went through analog to IP, and I think we're going through a very similar evolution right now with the advances in AI and cloud.
Garrett, from your perspective, I mean, as a service provider, as a solutions provider, I mean, AI and reporting capabilities that shape your business and how you partner with systems integrators, I mean, is a game changer for you guys, is it not?
It is, and it's one of the biggest things that we focus on, and one of the things I think a lot about is playing well with others. And it might be counterintuitive, right? Where there are so many ways that our integrators and our partners are solving problems for their customers. From our standpoint and from my standpoint, the last thing I want to be is a barrier or something that requires proprietary hardware or equipment or things like that, to where we make it hard to integrate with other solutions, because a lot of times you're going to find yourselves in a suite of services, especially with how we're talking about integrators evolving into doing more managed services and being that single throat to choke and proposing a suite or a bundle of services to solve a problem. My goal to make that easier for our integrators is to be able to play well with those other things, right? So I don't want someone to say, hey, this customer has, let's say 25 of, I'll just because he's here, I'll be nice. I have 25 digital Watchdog cameras, right? The last thing I want to have to say is, okay, you got to rip those out and put deep Sentinel cameras in if they want the monitoring. Our whole philosophy is let's be something that you can build as an add-on to what you're already providing. Let us come in and do the live guard monitoring and be that proactive aspect of it without, interfering with the rest of the analytics suite of the primary VMS system and the AI analytics they're running, right? So we put an on-prem device that's on the edge running our analytics over a substream on a camera. Wherever those primary streams are going, we are going to play nice. They're going to go into the DW system. They're going to give you all of those proactive, tell me every time a blue truck drives by. And we're not going to interfere with each other, because at the same time, those secondary streams are going to be waking up when there's a human threat on the property. Our guard's eyes are going to be on that within 5 seconds, watching in real time. So I think about that a little differently. And my main focus there is just to be able to support and work on whatever solution stack our integrators are using or standardizing on, or whatever solutions their customers have. Let's make the barrier of entry lower so that you can get those additional services contracts for those customers without having to rip out everything, right? That's kind of where I focus on.
And that's a good way to focus. And I'm sure Jason would agree as an integrator. So Jason, we're talking kind of chalkboard stuff here right now, but I'd like you to throw up some real world examples on, how proactive monitoring or managed services are going to directly translate into more predictable revenue for you as an integrator.
Yeah, that's a great question. The example I'd like to give is we did a project last year. It's called Ivy Crossing. It's multi-tenant, 1,023 multi-tenant site, 46 buildings. It was actually, Deep Sentinel and we partnered on it, and they were facing all types of issues. I mean, there was, like I mentioned, there's multiple homicides there a year. They had faced an arson. I saw it on the news this morning. Sorry.
Froze a little bit.
So I saw it was on the news this morning that, that they made a lot of arrests, that the Tren de la Agua people was at this site. So, at the time, the client was paying, they had tried to do different solutions. They had tried doing some LVT units, and they had tried putting deploying armed guards for 6 hours a day, for 24 hours a day on site.
That's costly.
And the client was paying, $150,000 per month. Yeah, they're paying $150,000 per month to try to mitigate this problem. So when you approach it and you kind of see the problems they're having, and knowing that you have a solution out of those costs, our partnership with Deep Sentinel, so our solution was to install 104 remote guard cameras all over the site. They were able to immediately get rid of those LVT units of which they were paying, $40,000+ per month for. And more importantly, in working with the on-site security, in working with the Arapahoe Police Department, what was really important about doing a project like this was getting all of the people involved, from the property managers to the local security, to the great partnership I have with Deep Sentinel, in not only in designing it, but building a solution around the issues that they were having. And then what we found is the end result is, not only is the client paying about half of what they were before in security costs, but we're able to build in our own recurring revenue streams for a much more effective solution. I mean, the report this morning I heard on the news was that the Arapahoe sheriffs themselves claim that crime is down 75% at this location, and they made 30 arrests here recently for all the things that happen. And I like to think those things happen when you really listen to what the challenges of the clients are. You design a solution around their needs, and then in there's all different types of ways to build in recurring revenues. And one of them is, one of the things that we helped develop, that Deep Sentinel helped us develop, was they didn't really care about having intervention. They had this property so big that so many interventions, things that their guards were constantly talking to people. What the ownership cared about was that how many times are police coming on the scene of this property? So in partnership with Deep Sentinel, they developed something else on their app called Leo on Property. So now ownership could click on a button, and then Leo means law enforcement on property. And then they'd be able to see every time that law enforcement came on their property. So it's just an example of how we try to design solutions based around the client's needs. And then when you do that, there are many opportunities for building recurring revenue.
Yeah, that's a great overview on a use case here. And just I want to follow up with that with you, and then we'll talk to our other folks here in a minute. But what kind of services are you finding that are most in demand right now, and why do you think they are resonating with the end users that you're servicing?
So, number one, it is the remote guard. Before they have a maintenance staff of 20 people. So they would not be able to, now their maintenance staff use this tool to prevent things from happening. So now when someone starts breaking into the pool, there's a guard stopping them from breaking into the pool and having these wild parties. So I'd say number one, the remote guard is big. There's also maintenance opportunities on a site this large with 104 cameras and 120 access points. There are things go down, so there's always opportunities to do recurring revenue on maintenance. And then what we found too, our clients being they're a REIT, so what they do is they purchase multiple properties. They have a portfolio of 20 or 30 properties, and they're very busy managing all of their different properties. So they don't really have time to sit and search for footage when every time an incident happens. The property managers can, but not the owners. So what we found is by providing them with reporting, they get a weekly report that kind of says, here's the incidents, how many incidents we stopped. We actually assign a value to the stop. If it was a trespassing, if it was a break-in, if it was an illegal dumping, we assign a value to it. And then what's great is unlike a traditional security services, which they often employ, I can send video again from Deep Sentinel along with the incident. So if they want to, they can just click on a video and they see. So those are the top three ways that we've built recurring revenue with that client.
Great. Patrick, Garrett, most integrators would like to have as wide an array of a tech stack as they can, but still be loyal to 2 or 3 partners, technology partners. And this is a good example of an integrator that seems to be dividing his attention across a lot of vertical markets, and therefore is widening his stack offerings, but is very focused on the two of you folks. As again, solution providers, what are some of the strategies that an integrator partner like this can use to position themselves as more than technology partners, more than product installers, but real problem solvers for their clients? And
Go ahead, Garrett.
Whoever wants to jump in there first.
So I think one of the things Jason touched on is key here is the ongoing maintenance and support aspect of it. So in this particular project, that was a big part of it. There's a lot of moving parts here, right? They initially reached out to us with their problems. We do a lot of initial sort of discovery and qualification of these deals, and this is why we're so focused on our integrators. Is like we're not out here just selling monitoring by ourselves. Like there's a large problem to solve. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of point-to-point, long-range things that need to be done with situations like this. Sometimes trenching, sometimes boring. So I think what you can do to differentiate yourself is to make sure that they understand that you are the person that is managing the entire solution, right? You as the integrator, and when they need to solve a different problem, when they need to add more or change what the system is doing, they're going to come to you, and it's going to give you guys opportunities to, offer more, right? You're going to be able to increase the revenue by, adding a different solution stack or adding on to what they're already doing with you. And then it also almost always, especially in Jason's vertical special with property management, there's always a portfolio of properties, right? So when you solve a problem for one property and you do something like this where you've solved a massive issue that they're having, I would even go so far as to say 99.9% of the time that leads to additional pilots, additional properties that they want you to go site walk. Okay, you hit a home run on this property. Can you come look at these 2 or 3 more properties? So being able to be that sort of trusted advisor and not just trying to sell them something they may not need, and just focusing on what is actually going to solve the problem, there's an inherent trust that's built there, and they're going to come to you to expand the services and expand their properties every time.
Patrick, how about you giving your side of this as well? I'd like to hear from you.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, first of all, Jason's to be commended because that's quite an undertaking in terms of the size of that project and the scope of that project in an initial offering, right? So I think that's a big reason why he's here today. I mean, most people will tell you as they're getting started in this type of, going back to the pitfalls of video monitoring is the recommendations typically are to start small and to control your environment. 4 walls and a fence is your friend, and as you deploy a solution, kind of build from there. So those are the success stories that I see a lot of the time are typical in terms of people learning in terms of how to interacting with the AI technology that's out there, interacting with the cloud services and so forth. In terms of the technology stack and the features, things that people are looking for, that we're getting asked for. But big one for us is camera view verification. Having AI in the cloud that's running, that's periodically checking the cameras. I mean, we've all heard the horror stories of you don't find out that the camera is down or the camera was looking in a different direction until there was an incident there, right? So a proactive approach and having camera view verification, AI checking on a day image and a night image, and if it's out of spec, getting an alert. Jason talked about the reports. I think the reports are really important. The fact that they're branded with Jason's company, right, and reinforcing to that customer the service that Jason is providing. He mentioned that they're getting a weekly report, monthly reports, quarterly reports in terms of there's mechanisms in place. We have an installation report, we have an inventory report, we have the camera view verification report, all under the integrators logo, not under the DW logo, right? Uh, Facilitating the ability to, you know, I sit in my particular office, I sit across from our tech support people, and I hear the conversations all the time of people calling in going, hey, I'm the new security director at this location, and I don't know who installed this system. I need to do a password reset. And that's like, that breaks my heart, because it's, you know, that there's an integrator out there that installed our system. So we're adding technology to add that integrator's contact information in there, so that the integrator becomes the first call for that end user. So that end user, even if the, you know, the personnel changes, the integrator's contact information is within the software interface, and that's their first call, because we want to be there to support the integrator, and we want the end users to be contacting those integrators.
Very good. You know, Jason, client expectations are changing, and end users, you know, are demanding more. But are end users driving demand for security as a service, or for advanced technologies as AI and remote monitoring, or are integrators kind of leading them down that path and kind of setting a mindset for them?
Well, you know, the term that they used to use in the tech industry was disruptive, right?
Right.
And I feel like it's crime and the clients that are changing the environment of how we approach things. So, you know, for example, it's a lot of my clients, a big part of their triple net or expense cost is due to like security costs. So when you have an armed security guard on site, and we have a client, met one last week at a McDonald's of all locations, that's paying $25,000 per month for an armed guard to be there all day long. So when you look at those type of problems that, number one, homelessness and crime and these things are bringing about, and then the client says, you know, they're tired of paying this cost to a security service, what we see is an opportunity with the evolution of all the new things that are coming out with AI, the ability to intervene on a crime with a live guard while the crime is happening. It's disruptive. So a lot of our clients, I mean, I'd say a good 80% of our clients have we like to go where the problems are. So we ask them those type of questions. Do you have a security guard service? Are they a roving patrol, or are they on site? So when you have a technology like this, you can, you know, and sometimes it's not always replacing that. Often it is. Often we'll replace security guards. But a lot of times, like at Ivy Crossing, for example, we've coordinated our efforts. So now security is more effective in doing their job, because now they could cover a large site. An incident happens, they get a notification on their phone. They could be on site in minutes and not hours, all because of this new disruptive technology. And I think it's AI that's leading the way. So it's I'd say it's coming from the client end and the crime end. Yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of a brief follow up, and then I want to talk to our other two folks here. You know, for those of you, you know, folks like you and others, colleagues that have made the leap to this recurring revenue model, what does success look like? What are the margins? What's you know, service delivery, client retention? What does success look like?
Well, I mean, you know, it's profitable, because when you find more ways to solve your clients' problems, you know, and then you're also offsetting costs. So one of the ways we think about it, as you mentioned, security as a service. So any tenant or any, you know, I had to learn this recently, what a triple net expense is. So what these property management companies will do is they spread out the cost of the trash removal, snow removal, and security service to however many tenants are located at this big industrial property or retail property, say 30 tenants. Based off of square footage, Each one of those tenants pay $5 per square foot plus a $3 triple net expense on top of that. Included in that is the security service. So when you look at it that way and you say, if I could help them improve the security, they don't have people hanging out, there's not people sleeping in front of the doorways when they come into work, tenants are very willing to pay that extra dollar per month to have a safe environment, and knowing that there's a guard outside of there watching their property at night. So when you look at it that way, there are all kinds of opportunities to not only partner with your client, but then you think about this, with the soft costs that you don't see. Here's what we really hone in on. You don't see the soft costs when someone comes on your property and they break into a car. When a homeless person comes on your property and they leave a mess and they're digging through your trash cans, the minute they get the call, our property manager gets the call, they spend an hour, they call the maintenance guy to go clean it up. That's an hour of their day spent. It's another hour of the maintenance guy going cleaning up a mess. But there's so many soft costs associated with that type of crime that a solution like this could help address and answer.
Great answer. Garrett, when we're talking about things like this, when you're introducing value-added services, what do you find the most effective way to communicate the ROI factor to a customer? And what's the cost of not doing this sort of things?
That's the key right there, is especially, I mean, we're a little spoiled in our sort of segment of what we're doing in terms of proactive crime prevention, because there's always a very clear cost of not doing something, right? Whether it be, a client that has a fleet of service vehicles or a long-term lot, and every catalytic converter that gets stolen is thousands of dollars. You have trouble maintaining insurance, business insurance goes up. There's, cost of vandalism. There's just, there are so many costs associated with not doing anything that we find
Right.
I hate to say it, but it's actually fairly easy to convey the ROI of a service like proactive crime prevention, because you're eliminating insurance pain, you're eliminating vandalism, you're eliminating sort of those costs to replace things that are damaged or stolen on a regular basis. And so it is, selfishly, I love it, because it is, like I said, it's pretty straightforward to convey the ROI of a service like this. So it's we're a little spoiled.
Patrick, on your end, what about on the video surveillance end?
Yeah, I mean, I would wholeheartedly agree with what Garrett just said. There's a definite opportunity cost out there. If you catalytic converters you mentioned, and that repair truck is now in the repair shop, right? Instead of out repairing and making money for that business. So there's definitely an opportunity cost. Going back to one of your earlier questions, I think, who's driving it. I really do think it's the end users that are driving it. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at my workstation. I've got my Salesforce.com account open next to my Microsoft 365 account. I mean, nobody's installing software anymore and managing that little machine. It's kind of, again, security is catching up with the rest of the world, and the businesses out there are savvy enough to know that, hey, there was real value when Microsoft switched from go download Word to here's Word on 365, and here's what you get every month for that service. So I think we're catching up in terms of our capabilities and our technology. Video, it's a large undertaking when you're talking about high resolution, high definition cameras, and lots of them in facilities, and that's always been one of the main issues there. But I think the like we've been talking about earlier, it's just the convergence of AI and the convergence of cloud right now have made it to this point where it's a great time with lots of opportunities out there in this space for sure.
I'm going to start out with you, Jason, on this, but I definitely want to get Patrick and Garrett to weigh in. I mean, we've kind of skirted around some of the technology issues here, and obviously IoT, and every device out there is a sensor, so the world has changed. not only from capabilities, but from vulnerability standpoints. So from your perspective, what trends like AI or remote security solutions do you think will have the biggest impact on you as an integrator in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, while AI is effective, you know, I did a little research before Deep Sentinel and I formed a partnership, and there are other video monitoring solutions around there. You know, it's moving in a direction now with these large language models where AI pretty soon is going to be able to look at a situation, it's going to be able to translate it to a voice, and now it's going to be a computer voice that responds to somebody there. But I still feel, I mean, the reason I appreciate my partnership with Deep Sentinel is it's the combination using AI, you know, and I believe theirs is a deep learning algorithm. So what it's doing is it's learning the patterns of a parking lot and then flagging anomalies, right? So AI will always be good for that, and it'll probably just get better over the next 3-5 years. But for us, it was the combination of that plus having a live person on the other end. There's just nothing that replaces, you know, when you're trying to keep something safe, when it's your family, when it's a property, when there's a crime in progress, and you need to have a live intervention. I mean, one of the things I share about often is, you know, we had done a job years ago, and there was an active shooter here in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm going through footage after the fact, and it's a horrifying scene to see an active shooter situation. And my question is, I've thought about this a lot. I thought about moving forward, what would an AI look like, or a solution like this look like in a school? What would a solution like this with AI look like in an active shooter situation? Are there ways that we could use AI plus live people to stop these incidents from happening? I believe there are. And, you know, when we could do that, and moving forward in the next 3-5 years, that's where I think it's gonna move. And you know, it's still going to be a combination, I believe, of you know, AI and with people.
You know, given that roadmap, Garrett, talking to Jason, as integrators and your partners take on more client data and managed services, how are they supposed to rethink their liability, compliance, and cybersecurity risks?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the way that we approach that as the service provider is that the cool thing about that is these partnerships, they don't have to take on any liability with us, right? They're kind of the aggregator. They're the ones building these solution bundles. But in terms of proactive crime prevention, we are providing that service so that they don't have to take on any customer liability, right? So it allows them to kind of push that off onto our managed service, our master services agreement, our terms of service, so that we are just as focused as protecting our partners from liability as we are delivering the service agreements to the clients. So I think it's a combination of, in some cases, making sure that the vendor partners you're working with are not dumping liability on you.
You know, Patrick, to that respect too, you know, what partnerships, whether they're with your manufacturers, cloud providers, or AI firms, are proving most effective for scaling new offerings for your company?
Yeah, so with our DW Spectrum platform, we talk about it being an open architecture. We've talked about it being an open architecture now for 12 years. That we can work with companies like Deep Sentinel, that we can bring in access control products, other video analytic products. So, you know, whether it's the firearm detection, we work with a couple of different providers that have that kind of technology in their stack, and they're fully compatible or fully integrated with DW Spectrum. to deliver that within the Spectrum interface. So yeah, Garrett mentioned it earlier in terms of not being a proprietary solution, being an open platform, and we pride ourselves on Spectrum being that open video platform that you can bring in not just video, but you can bring in sensors, you can bring in vape detectors. We talk about in schools. We've got a number of partners in that category, AI partners, access control partners, and bring them all into the interface and operationally. I think going back to your question as far as the next 3 to 5 years, it's really one of my favorite motivational speaker, let's call him. He talks about change agility driving performance, right? And in this space, in the next 3 to 5 years, like we talked about, we're in the very early stages of that bell curve of people adopting into the cloud, and it's going to continue to accelerate, and it's going to continue to get better and better. And more opportunities are going to do. So the real success is your ability to adapt and to that and be agile in that as your to drive the performance of your organization. Right.
Great answer. Jason, I'm going to let you finish off our last group question here, and then we've got one question from the audience I want to get to. So as we're talking about this whole paradigm shift, this transition, this digital transformation of the industry. Inside an integrator's business, what needs to change in terms of sales approach, technical expertise, even the company culture to make that transition successful?
Yeah, so that's a great question too. I'll just return back to I think it's a quote by Steve Jobs, but he says, you've got to start with the customer experience and then work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and then try to form it for the customer. So when you take that approach, when you think of all the products that Apple's created, they started with the customer experience. So we here at NCS, our sales reps are trained to just go one. My sales rep calls it one deeper, right? So it's one deeper. You want to find out. We usually get calls when there's issues. So you find out what the issue is, and you say, okay, we're having people get on our roof and rip off copper. We're having this happen. So one deeper means, well, what happens when that happens? And then they say, well, when that happens, then I have to call the insurance company. I have to call the maintenance guy. It really is a client-centric, focused approach. So if we as a security industry really take that approach and try to go one deeper to find out what are the client's pain points. It's never just about just the incident. It's about what happens behind that incident, and then what is the pain point caused by it. So for us, that's driven to everyone in our culture to try to find out what that thing is. And then as a security provider, we have all of these great tools that we could build solutions around our clients' needs. And, guys like DW and Deep Sentinel are just helping us to provide those specific widgets based around our clients' needs.
Great approach to that, Jason. That's a solid approach. I'm going to take one question here, and Garrett, I'm going to throw it at you since it's directed to Deep Sentinel. Jeff wants to know, how does Deep Sentinel differ from other video monitoring services provided by various central stations such as Checkit, Imix, and others of that ilk?
Got it. Yeah, good. That's a good question. So biggest difference with Deep Sentinel is that where I'll start is we're an end-to-end solution, right? So with a lot of those other providers out there, you're typically putting together multiple solutions. A back end like Imix still has to be paired with a specific central station. It's kind of a generic catch-all solution. Whereas, Jason touched on what we do. Our whole motto is better, faster, cheaper. And what we do is we put a hub device on the edge with our own AI. So you have that on-prem device that's how we are watching a property within 5 seconds, right? On average, 2 to 7 seconds, typically on average sub 5, from motion, human identification to a live guard watching. And then that guard is watching in real time, is able to interact in real time through two-way audio, and obviously make a determination on what needs to be done. Everything past the camera to the hub is Deep Sentinel's proprietary product in terms of end-to-end. We are not pairing with an outsourced central station. We're not leveraging anybody else's technology. It's our patented AI, which can, as Jason mentioned, learn idiosyncrasies and specifics about a particular property to dial in and make the solution more effective for each individual customer through the hub they have on their property. It is our own guard center software. It's our own guards as well. So everything from the past the camera all the way up to Deep Sentinel is a end-to-end singular solution. The other thing that we do that's different is, which we'll touch on the other question. I know we're running over time, but we publish a service level agreement so that you don't have to guess what Deep Sentinel is going to do in a given situation and how fast we're going to respond. We publicly publish our SLAs of 30-second response, 60-second law enforcement escalations for all different categories of use types, property types. So it is an all-inclusive solution that is not just a hodgepodge of different technologies.
Excellent. I appreciate that. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our day and our panel discussion here. And I want to thank everybody who attended. We had a really good crowd. We had great registration on this one, so it definitely shows that the interest is there. So I certainly am obliged to Garrett, Patrick, and Jason for spending time with us and sharing their expertise on this subject. And certainly want to thank our sponsors, Deep Sentinel, Digital Watchdog, and NCS Systems. As a reminder, following today's presentation, this webinar will be archived on our site for 6 months. You will receive an email notification once that's occurred. To access more webinars, you can visit SecurityInfoWatch.com/webinars. And also, as a reminder, this webinar will be posted in perpetuity on our YouTube channel. So you can go in the Security InfoWatch YouTube channel. Just as a plug in our own horn here, or tooting our own horn, in October, we will be doing our annual security school safety and security overview. We'll have 4 consecutive weeks of digital and live web panels, and then we'll be following that up with a digital supplement. And you can go to Security InfoWatch and find the landing page there if you're interested. So again, Garrett, Patrick, Jason, thank you very much, and to the audience, and we will see you on our next broadcast. Gentlemen, be safe out there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys.